Huh?
Yeah, I like the boat here, the Hirondelle,
Yeah.
and the just the keyhole view to the far distance.
Yeah. Yep.
And then this stern of this one right in the foreground. What do you think?
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
Does it work for all of us?
Yeah.
Here we see Jada demonstrating the use of the view catcher. I'm also using a viewfinder. This one's homemade, made of cardboard painted black and marked evenly with 5 by 8 increments. And I've matched those increments with 5 inches by 8 inches marked in a grid in pencil so that I can place each of the main lines of the picture that I've chosen out of this whole scene. I have the boat occupying the left-hand side of the composition. My eye level is about at the level of the water line, a little bit below. And the keyhole view will be framed by the boat on the left and the building on the right, forming a distant view. Let me show you some examples of keyhole views. They're often framed by doorways, like on the far left of this painting by Ferdinand Waldmüller of a farrier shop, or this one by Lawrence Alma Tadema. We see through the curtain a whole scene. Or here, this Ilya Repin of a recruit going off to war. And as I start with the paint, this is gouache paint, I'm using a little bit of white mixed into it because I want it to be very flat and opaque. If I were to have painted this in transparent watercolor, it would have been harder to achieve this really smooth, even color. I'm making it a little bit lighter and a little bit warmer toward the right-hand side. Skies gradate not only from the zenith at the top down to the horizon. Not only that, but they also have a gradient that goes away from the sun. That solar glare, the glare around the sun, makes it lighter. And so farther from the sun, laterally, it gets darker. Now, having painted the sky, I can now paint the shadow side of the waterline and the transom of the boat in shadow. Most of the boat is in shadow at this point, but the sun will probably come around and light the side of the boat later. That dull blue-gray that I laid down there underneath the rudder area is white in shadow, so that if I paint something even darker than that, that color will read as white in shadow, catching the blue of the sky. Now with a fairly dry brush and some dull green color, I can suggest the foliage of the tree, which has an interesting texture along its edge. The paint is peeling on this old boat, probably hasn't seen water in a long time. I've split the hairs of this brush so I can paint the leaves fairly efficiently. These old boats take a lot of maintenance. The tones in the shadow range from the white in shadow to the very darkest dark under the keel. And on the hull of the boat itself, you've got the dark red color under the waterline, the blue-green color along the waterline, and then the white above that. And then the color of the planks, which we see through the peeling paint. All that is modified by its angle in relation to the sky and, of course, to the sunlight. The sunlight is now shining on the side of the boat. So I'm using a more pure white to paint the light on the side of those planks. And that brown color, or the gray color underneath, is the color of the exposed wood of the planks where the paint is peeled off. We've got all these steel supports holding up various boats. I'm using a thin rigger brush. I want to put the name of the boat in the back here. So I figure the first letter, the last letter, and the middle letter. That's an N. It's Hirondelle. The boat that's just past it is receiving light. I'm painting around a cast shadow that the Hirondelle is casting onto the boat next to it. Makes an interesting shape at this time of day. The taffrail on the afterdeck is a dark grayish color, and there's some cable railings on the sides. So I'll use this long rigger brush for painting these thin lines. With any thin architecture like this, I can use either the painted line or a drawn line with a pencil. The gouache surface makes a very receptive surface to either one. And I'm using here more a pencil line with a white highlight for where the cable railing replaces the solid railing. I'm saving for last the stilts or stands that the boats are propped up on. But they create a forest of detail on the left-hand side that keep the eye from wanting to travel back through that little window to deep space, and instead we want to travel back into the depth of the scene along the road and on the right-hand side in this keyhole view. When I was young, I knew a guy who had a dream of sailing alone around the world. He built his boat, and it remained propped up in a boatyard like this. I wanted his dream to come true, but it never did. And this boat reminds me of that yearning. That's really what a keyhole view is all about. It creates a space within a picture to pull you back into a dream. Okay, thanks for watching. You might want to check out my website or subscribe to my channel. And then here's a playlist with more good stuff and a video that continues the story. So check them out and share with your friends.